how's it going?
Is it cool in the park here?
Oh, totally cool.
Nice. How you doing, man?
Good to see you.
Good to see
excited. Sorry, I hit a light here. I don't know. Usually that light is not here.
We are here with Sven from the channel ThisGuyEdits, and we're going to be here to share just a little taste of some tips of things that you should think about when it comes to editing. And we have some information about a contest that we're launching together that I think is going to be really exciting.
Yeah, so we met each other a couple of weeks ago, and we realized we're actually living in the same city. So we're like 10 minutes away from each other.
Yeah, I should probably move it though.
Have channels that are very similar. I mean, you do more filmmaking on a broader scale. I do more editing. Hello there, and welcome to another episode of This Guy Edits. I wanted to shadow him to see what it's like to edit some of the biggest shows in television. The opening, or the hook, is one element of good storytelling. In this video, I'm going to talk about what I think is the single most important thing that you can do to make your editing better. First and foremost, it's about the educational value.
Yeah.
And that's how I see myself as well, that it's not entertainment purely. I mean, it is important, but it's really discovering together how can you tell stories better. But how can we make something together and involve you? I think we came up with something really cool. Chris and I have been working on this idea for weeks.
We've gone through a journey.
We wanted to do something that really challenges you to edit yourself.
That got me really excited because it just kind of took it to like a whole other level. So we have two very different scenes. One is more dialogue and drama driven.
Shit, you're good at this.
The other one is more about movement and emotion in that movement. You can pick either or, and then you can make the best edit that you can. And then from there, we're gonna review these edits and pick some winners.
So we came up with a slate of prizes that we think are really, really cool. We're gonna talk about that in the upcoming video.
So yeah, guys, we're gonna share a little bit more detail in the coming videos. So I guess for now, we'll jump into what we're gonna be talking about today, and hopefully this can help you guys with making better edits and also making better edits for this contest coming up.
So I thought we're gonna talk about specific storytelling tips while you're editing that help with these challenges, so that you end up making good choices in terms of how to build a scene and how to drive drama in those scenes. So the first tip that I have, and that took me a while to adapt as well, is to be really, really patient with the way that you look at the dailies.
Getting a good understanding of your material and what you're working with, because that's where your story is going to come from. And if you're just starting without really a clear plan or a clear direction, it kind of falls apart very quickly.
Look at all the dailies. Don't just look at them. I mean, you want to work with them, so start sorting them, start identifying the moments that what I would call the gold moments, and find a way to mark them, whether you use a marker system, or what I like to do is I move them up in the timeline. So if I build a select reel where I have every shot in there or every usable moment, the things that I really like, I keep moving them up. So I have a second layer that's good stuff, and I have a third layer that's gold stuff, where I'm pretty sure I'm going to try really hard to somehow incorporate it in the scene. But I don't cut the scene yet, and I don't commit to it yet. I just let the footage speak to me and go through that entire process. I might even wait a day before I start cutting the scene. And then early in the next morning, I feel fresh and re-energized, and I sort of worked out in my brain like a game plan, how I'm going to tackle that scene.
Sometimes you can even find some really good moments even in outtakes or in between takes, especially if you're dealing with a non-narrative shoot, if you're doing fashion or music videos. Sometimes there's going to be some really cool moments or some really genuine and real emotions that someone could be just expressing just because they're laughing because they don't think that the camera's rolling. So sometimes you can even find some really good sections even when it's beyond the take.
So when you look at the footage, and you see, okay, the camera is settling in and the director hasn't said action yet, watch what the actors are doing as they're getting ready, because usually they play with each other. They're trying to amp up the energy, or they're trying to gauge each other. And sometimes these little interactions that are happening before the take actually started can be really useful if you need like a really cool reaction shot or really powerful moment to create something. Because every shot is just a building block. It's not the moment itself. You're creating it through the editing. Tip number 2 is something that's special to me in the sense that it really defines how I go through my day. And I haven't really come up with a catchy name for it, but basically what I'm recommending is when you're editing, you have a phase where you play, where you're just having fun, which means you're not really worried about the story or exactly hitting the marks, the points that you want to make. You're just exploring ideas. You're going after like a hunch that you have. And often that happens in conjunction with music. So I would recommend having these moments, but then also you need to get serious again. And you need to just worry about structure and making sure that every story beat that you mapped out, that you are achieving that goal through editing. By doing it where I'm not committing to one style or the other as I'm cutting a scene.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that. Like how do you go through a scene? Do you always have like the same game plan, or do you keep it loose?
Sometimes, I think it depends. Sometimes there's scenes where it calls a certain game plan for itself. It's like, this is how I'm meant to be shown. And sometimes when I'm into that flow, I'll just keep going, and it feels like pieces that are just kind of falling into place. Other times it's not like that at all. Sometimes it does take experimentation, and either way, I think one of the key things with either situations is you need to be very organized, and you need to allow yourself to have room to play, have fun with it, take it different directions, and experiment until it feels right.
Yeah. And oftentimes what happens is it takes me down a path that I had no idea I was going to go. And I just follow that path and I'll explore it fully. Tip number 3, I don't know if it qualifies as a tip, but it's something that's so important that I'm going to give it a try. And it is the realization that when you're looking at your timeline, what you're really looking at is just shots, words, and sound. But what you are doing with it is so much bigger than that. It's not just putting these things together and just slapping some music underneath and letting the actor say whatever the information is. You're using these building blocks to turn it into a story. So the concepts that you're dealing with have so much more to do with not what's on the timeline, but what it means. So finding the meaning between these building blocks is the journey of discovery for an editor.
When you get that initial instinct of tightening things up and really cutting things to make it feel fast-paced, since we're in such a fast-paced time, a lot of times letting things breathe and just really seeing what the scene calls for, because again, everything that you should be doing should have some meaning behind it, and all the elements, like you said, all the dialogue, the sounds, the shots, they all need to have a relationship with each other. So again, for more editing tips and editing videos, definitely check out Sven's channel, ThisGuyEdits. And I guess what are some of the good some good videos that people can get started on?
I'm gonna recommend one short one that is 3 mistakes that every beginner editor makes. It's a very bold statement, but I think the video proves it. 3 mistakes that almost all beginner editors make, and I don't mean this. Then I would recommend you to dive deeper. There's a long video, it's about 20 minutes long, and it's called How to Drive Drama in a Scene. And there I take the concept of David Mamet, who says every scene should be about what does a character want right now, why right now, and what happens if she doesn't get it. And you should try and find a way to answer those questions in a scene. And that's what I'm going to do today here. Third one would be like 7 editing tips that are just simple and beautiful. And there I just run through like 7 really important concepts of editing. And I compiled a list of 7 things you can do instantly to bring your cutting skills to the next level.
And I think what we'll do is we'll build a playlist and where you can find all these videos. So if you are not jumping over onto the second part of this video where we have 3 more tips over on your channel.
I'm going to ask you now, what are some of the things that you've learned over the course of your career?
Yeah, I have a list. There are 2 sides to any person. Okay, let's not get into that. You can continue on watching the playlist that we've created that I'll link below in the description or in the info cards, and you can dive deeper into each other's channels and really explore more editing goodness.
Yeah, and stay tuned because soon we'll officially launch the competition, and then you'll really find out how you're going to get the footage and get started.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, Chris, for coming over.
Thank you.
Take care.